Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to an all-new season of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, as proudly brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right ladies and gentlemen, after a long hiatus, the Strength Fulfilled race, the SOF race, is back for the infamous one-make Porsche 992 Cup Car Series, and we are here today to kick things off for the 2025 Season 3 calendar campaign, and we are here in Belgium at the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, a legendary circuit in its own right, and arguably it needs no introduction, being a circuit that's played host to most, if not all, major international road racing class series, including the Porsche Super Cup. And we're here today to set the pace over what is expected to be an incredible evening of racing action. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this racing broadcast live from circuit side, brought to you on YouTube at youtube.com, and search for TX141TX, alternative Paul Walsh. And well, who is Paul Walsh? Who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself as your host and commentator for this season's Top Split broadcast. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain Split, depending on what media you follow me on, and I will bring you all your racing action as it unfolds. But speaking of our schedule tonight, schedule in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC, and as we can see, we'll be having one race on our schedule from this Top Split spot, the 1945 GMT or UTC slot on iRacing, and our race is due to get underway with 11 laps of racing in approximately 4 minutes' time. As we make our way then into this season, let's talk very quickly about the calendar, because here is our schedule, and as we can see, we'll be touring the world, starting in Belgium and making our way from Belgium to Brazil, to Japan, to Australia for a brief excursion, to Mount Panorama, then to the Netherlands for Circuit Zandvoort, before we have a triple header in the United States of America, and it'll be Portugal and Hungary, where we wrap things up. All of our broadcasts will be regularly in the 1945 GMT or UTC slot on Wednesdays, the only exception being on week number 6 when we head to Australia, where the broadcast will be on Saturday the 26th of July due to scheduling requirements, and it does mean, ladies and gentlemen, therefore you can expect weekly racing action from the very finest drivers in the Porsche Cup racing machine. But speaking of the finest drivers, to go to the finest circuit, well, we are here of course at the village of Francorchamps in the municipality of Stavelot in the Liège province of the Wallonia region of Belgium, and our drives will be taken on the Grand Prix pit layout of the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. 19 corners, many of them household names, if not all of them. They don't need an introduction, but we're going to introduce them anyway, whether it be the hairpin or the sauce, the fast, rapid-fire run through Uruge and Radiot onto the Kemmel Straight, the chicane Le Com all the way through and down towards Ravage Corner, No Name Corner, now known as X at turn number 9, or pull on the fast left-hander at 10, and we'll be giving way very quickly to the medium speed chicane of Fanges at turns 12 and 13 for the long run around Stavelot 1 and Stavelot 2. And to see our drivers come back at themselves, they roar the way through Blanchimont to the bus stop chicane to complete the lap, and time again, a circuit that will put our drivers the absolute limit. Rules-wise, well, there's not too many rules, but let's take you through them, because this is the Open Setup Series, the premier series of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, sponsored proudly by the sim racing hardware manufacturer. It's Open Setups, and as we can see, race-wise, the grid shall be set by a closed qualifying session, which is currently ongoing. The race commencing via a standing start, as is the tradition of Porsche Cup racing around the globe, with the fact that this machine will be taking the precedence of over 30 racing series this year at both the domestic level all the way through to the international level, and we'll see drivers receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points, and if they're cheeky enough and get to 25, they may end up being disqualified. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. You're here for the racing, and so are we. And well, the big question is, who is looking the fastest out there in this qualifying session? Well, 8 minutes in duration. All the drivers will need to absolutely nail these qualifying laps if they want to come out at the top. It's always the big challenge, of course, and particularly at such a long circuit. And well, keeping in mind that the strength fulfilled for this session, yes, you look in the top left corner of your screen, you can see it is rounded down to 5.6k or 5,600. To be a bit more precise, it's 5,644, and we have some drivers in here in excess of 9,000 I rating, if not 10,000, I believe. And well, the man with over 10,000 I rating, well, I do not believe it's Tristan Iglesias, although I will double check on that to make sure. In fact, I think he's one of 2 drivers of over 10,000 I rating, and the other one being our number 1 driver there, Aaron Vasquez. He makes his way out of Lecom and down towards Ravage Corner. Indeed, we've got the ultimate superstars out there, but that's not to forget about all the drivers on this grid. And while we do have a grid totaling the best part of 25 competitors, we've got a maximum grid here, and it's going to be a maximum madness in the Porsche Cup. Don't question it at all, because that's the one thing about these cars. They are the ultimate challenge when it comes to absolutely high speed, high thrill racing. Now, for the uninitiated, what can you expect about the Porsche 911 GT3 992 Cup car? It's a bit of a mouthful there, and the reason why we say it's the 992 Cup car is because of the fact it was upgraded upgraded from the 991 machine, the Porsche generations and the designations of the base 911 model, being the 991 and then subsequently 992. Well, these cars are in Super Cup spec. They have no anti-lock braking systems, no ABS. If you're doing anti-lock braking, you've got to do it yourself as a driver. You've got to modulate the brakes. On top of that, they have no traction control or TCS. You've got to modulate the throttle. And that is the Super Cup rule spec, whereby the systems are gradually switched off. The first thing that goes is the traction control system when you're racing at Cup level, and when you move to Super Cup, you see the anti-lock braking system also switched off. These cars, they're much like the GT3 machine when it comes to racing a Porsche 911 992 classification. However, some of the aero is peeled back, and that in turn means that these cars really do demand a lot from a driver. And, well, these are the cars that you see many an international racer get their big career break in before they move into GT3 machinery and indeed into series such as IMSA, alternatively the World Endurance Championship. And that's why Porsche Cup is so coveted when it comes to racing, whether it be in the United Kingdom, alternatively further abroad in Belgium in the Benelux Super Cup, or indeed all around the globe, even on the Asian continent. I do believe Super Cup has become a major theme. As all drives come towards the end of this qualifying session, and with the Spa-Francorchamps circuit spanning the best part of 4.35 miles or 7 kilometres in length, depending on your preference of units and where you hail from, it is a circuit whereby our drivers will just about squeeze in their 2 flying laps in this qualifying session when the 8-minute window, but it looks as though it is going to be Tristan Izelias who is going to be taking that pole position, unless anybody can spring a late surprise here. But right now, with Neil Butler coming to a close, he's on a cool-down lap there. Is anybody else on a lap? And, well, Matthew Hops has not set a lap. He's just left the pit lane, so he's going to be starting from the back of the field, as will Clinton Shumbi. And it does seem as then Tristan Izelias and Heidi Noah Mimasti will be taking that front row as we head to the grid then, ladies and gentlemen, for the first of top split races for this season. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they line up then for the season opener. And as we can see, it's Tristan Izelias from Spain who takes pole position. He'll be in the company alongside him of Heidi Namimasi. And then we do have on row number 2, the combination from Grid and Go of Aaron Vasquez and then the privateer of Malte Johansson. On row number 3, it is going to be Bernardo Faria and alongside him, Tommy Liglama. And then we have on row number 4, the combination of Pedro Ribeiro and alongside him, Erin Baba. Completing the top 10, it will then be the pairing of Alex O'Grady and Philip Hammer. And well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, the German driver, they've had the pleasure of coming in multiple dedicated leagues and series, racing in Porsche Cup machines, particularly UK Sim Racing Series. And well, he has been an absolute star in that, and we look forward to seeing what he can achieve as he'll look to try and charge his way through the field. And then we come on to row at number 6, and it is going to be the combination there of William Rasmussen and Vicente Aparicio, ahead of the combination of Gareth Higgins and Hayden Bramley. And then on row at number 8, it is going to be Rudolf Blutstrompen, and then it will be alongside him, Jelt Hildorn, with row number 9 going to Lena Cabrera, and well, alongside him will be Oliver Clark. Completing your top 20, Matt Strand, then the Norwegian driver, never count him out for Cube Control's Reparto course, and he'll have the company of Neve Thompson, who lines up in 20th place. And then to round off our order there, we do have Neil Butler and Luca Domko, ahead of Vince Peters and Clinton Shumbi, and starting last but not least, no lap set, much like Shumbi, it will be Matthew Hops. That will be your 25-car grid for the week 1 top split race here at Spa-Francorchamps. But everybody gets themselves gradually into position here, and I think everyone deciding how they want to set up the car, make sure they've got the right amount of fuel to take them to the distance. It's always going to be a big challenge there in the respect to the fact that our drivers will want to make sure that they absolutely nail the right amount of fuel. They won't want a litre more than they need to have, but the converse side of it, of course, being they won't want to have too little, otherwise they'll have to fuel save. And these are sprint races. They are only 11 laps in this instance, but on average about 25 minutes in length. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen, and here we go for the season opener. Lights are about to go on. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5. It's the roar of 6-cylinder engines, and away we go at Spa-Francorchamps as Tristan Izelias gets a good start there. But look, Mimasti and Vasquez, they're battling side by side already down into La Source corner. Onto the brakes they go. No change between them. The whole field gradually staggers its way through. 3 wide there into La Source. Oh no, and it's gone very wrong there. And that is Lilama has gone around, and well, he's gone around before he's even cleared turn number 1, but he's been able to get it away from the wall and goes racing once again. So as all drivers now make the way through Rouge and Radion, things will calm down for a brief moment, and I say for a brief moment because we do have the Kemmel Straight coming up, and this is where we're going to see now who's got a bit more rear wing than the other, and also the power of the toe as they head down then towards Lake Orme. You can see there the top 3 really staying in line formation. A little bit of a quick peek there from Vasquez, but decides not to go for it further back. That is 3 wide. There's we've got a slowdown being served by one of our drivers, and that's Rasmussen on the inside of O'Grady, and in the end, well, the two do settle the differences, but not without a bit of an excursion. That's going to see Hildorn for a long way back back as well. And, well, as Heldon moves forward, O'Grady falls even further back there. I should correct the name of the driver that I've called out. And as they come down towards Rivage corner, O'Grady right now, Alex O'Grady, falling all the way down from the top 10 down to 12th place. There's a bit of drama there as a few drivers are being escorted off the road, and that's Luca Domko and I believe Neil Butler both having a bit of a moment, albeit they survived it thereabouts, but I wouldn't be surprised there's some gravel and also some bruised feelings there as they exit the corner, now coming in towards X Bend, but looking back up towards the field, Oliver Clark versus Lino Cabrera. They're too wide into Puon Bend, and the number 5 driver there of O'Grady also tried to get involved, but he can't find a way in at the moment and has to wait his turn as they charge the way in towards Lacombe once more. Well, not Lacombe, it'll be into the Fantasy chicane there. Let's get our corner names right. Let's roll the way into the right, into the left combination. There's going to be no change at this time. They will run line and stern for a brief moment, and I think try to size each other up in the next complex. We can see O'Grady already thinking about it here. He knows he does not want to be down in 17th place. He wants to have an opportunity to move forward, but the problem is now, with the field starting to space out, it's not that easy. Looking a bit further up the road there, we see Matt Strand under a bit of pressure from Peters, as Peters looking one way then the other, but Nina Blanchemont's on the horizon. It's not that easy. As we ride on board here, Peters looking up the inside, and Vince Peters going for another place. That'll move up 10 places. On the inside he goes. Does he get it stopped in time before running too wide? He just about does so, but definitely was a bit of a dangerous one there and brings it back on in. But sometimes you've got to be bold and you've got to be dangerous in order to get the job done, and doing exactly that as O'Grady looks to go outside to inside here for the bus stop chicane, and he puts the move on Lino Cabrera successfully. But after one lap of racing, it is Tristan Iglesias who started on pole position, and he's still leading after one lap ahead of Heidi Namamasi. We then have Aaron Vasquez in third, Malte Johansson in fourth, Bernardo Faria in fifth. They stay as they started in this race. Further on down, well, we do have Pedro Ribeiro in sixth place. He's continuing to move forward here, having gained one place. Philip Hammer, he's one of the biggest gainers inside the top 10, 3 places gained. And we can see there the very colourful liveried number 8 now trying to put more pressure onto Ribeiro. He has William Rasmussen for company, and Vicente Aparicio and Gareth Higgins complete your top 10. But at the front, we can see there the two leaders. They continue to push each other away from the field. They're trying to break away from Vasquez, Iglesias and Mimasi, but it's going to be much easier said than done, given the fact, of course, they need to try and put a bit more time between themselves and their rivals. And, well, coming out of the corner there from Lacombe down towards Rivage, it looks like right now you could have a top 10 that's going to stay very close together, or a top 8 really, with 9th place Gareth Higgins falling away a little bit, but he's brought himself a little bit of breathing room for Vicente Aparicio. And, well, for those of you who followed the GTE official at Top Split broadcast last season, you'll know that Vicente was very handy in a GTE, and, well, it looks like he's very handy in a Porsche Cup car right now as he comes charging it down out the left-hander. As he roars his way onwards there, the top 10 continues to stay exactly as it is, but we have had some drama further back. We also had a bit of a rallycross approach there to Expend from Nevid Thompson, just in front of Clinton Shumbi, who we are now looking at. And Shumbi here in the number 24, having started all the way down 24th place, which was where his door number would say he would finish this race, because that's how the door numbers are allotted in iRacing Official Series. They are allotted based on your I rating and the expectation, therefore, of where you should finish relative to your rivals. However, it's not to say you can't make progress, and we're seeing that here from Matthew Hops, who's trying to make a bit of a runaway here from Rudolf Blutstrumoen. But the problem will be that for Hops right now, for all the hard work he's putting in, he's got a long queue of cars all queuing up to try and pass him as we look back from the rear of the 19th place driver. Well, as he rides his way out Stablo 1 into Stablo 2, he's doing everything he can to make the number 25 Porsche as wide as humanly possible right now, and something tells me he's going to need to make it a bit wider than he already is, because the snake oil machine there is getting close, and Blutstrumoen is going to look up the inside here in towards Blanchemont Bend. This is going to be a classic 2 wide. Now, will Hops decide to fight it, or will he let it go? I think it's the latter. He backs off the throttle, tries to cut back, but mistimes the cut back, and that is going to cause him to lose all the momentum as Butler comes on through, Oliver Clark comes on through, and suddenly it's Taylor Rory and Matthew Hops falls all the way down the order, and that was not Hops skipping a jump away in terms of places. If anything, it was an absolute throttling of the positions, and now he's been forced down 3 places as a result of one mistimed cut back. But as they head up towards La Source, this fight is still carried on. And, well, the battle towards the back of the field just as intriguing as the battle towards the very front of the field. As we see a bit of defensive work they got on from Butler as he tries to make sure that Oliver Clark doesn't get on through. And, well, that's going to be as they stand for now, as Matthew Hops tries to have an opportunity here into Rouge, but he decides against it. Looking back to the front of the field, well, our top 3 there getting very tasty now in Aaron Vasquez looking up the inside here, Mamasi, and, well, they're going to swap the places there. Vasquez going on through and now up into 2nd place. However, further on back, Malte Johansson still in 4th with Fernando Faria being pulled along behind him as they all run a bit wide. They're all pushing the track limits. They know they can run off the circuit a few times and pick up a couple of track limit warnings, but they do it too often and make some contacts, and they very quickly find themselves with a drive-through penalty. It's called taking a track limit in order to get a bit of time, as they say. However, you've got to be very tactical with it, or the tactical off tracks, I think is the nickname that is officially given by drivers, and with some tactics being played there. But everybody knowing that right now, if everyone's using the same tactic, it doesn't really gain you anything. But it also goes to show you how hard they're pushing it right now, and who can blame them. But right in the way on down, we do say hello in the YouTube chat there to Herfen, also to Justin Mullins, who clarify that Matteo Johansson is also a 10k plus I-rated driver. Thank you for that information. I'll keep that in mind. And we also say hello there to the man down under, Corey Lazarus, who says, did Erin get a slowdown penalty? And we believe Erin Baba did pick up a slowdown penalty down the Kemmel Straight on the open lap, and that explained why he's fallen all the way down to 11th place. However, we have yet to citate that, so therefore citation required. But as the drivers continue to push onwards, you can now start to see the fact the top 6 are definitely gapping the rest of the field, and it's William Rasmussen who continues to hold on to 7th place here. And right now you can understand the number 16 driver, I think he'll be feeling quite happy where he is in this running order, but he would like to just break a little bit of the toe from Hammer, but Hammer is staying right there with him as they roar the way for Blanchimont corner, but it's half a second. And one thing we've definitely seen in past racing series with Philip Hammer is normally the setups he does run sometimes take a little bit more rear wing compared to some of his rivals, gives him a lot more confidence in the corners, and that's where he gains a lot of race time. But notably there, coming through Blanchimont, he may have lifted to just respect the fact of the dirty air, but falling back a little bit on the straights, and Rasmussen able to open up the gap. But we will see here La Source at the beginning of the lap, he'll be able to carry more speed through the hairpin, and this will enable him to close that gap up quickly. As Erin Barber cuts up the inside there of Aparicio, it's turn 1, and Barber now back into the top 10 here, but Aparicio right behind him as we look back from the rear of the virtual machine as he charges his way in towards turns 2, 3 and 4, and we'll go in on through left, right, and then left again. Well, it's not going to be an opportunity for Aparicio initially, but now who's going to be the faster one of the straights here? Given that Barber has a little bit of a distant toe off of Higgins, he's going to feel as though he's safe, but is he safe enough? And well, here we go then all the way down the Kemmel Straight, and well, the speed differential between these two negligible, so it does seem as though that distant toe working in Barber's favour and just giving him a little bit of confidence. But looking through the corners of Lake Com, that is where you can see Aparicio closing up quite rapidly, but no change between them, at least at this time. We're coming down on towards Araj, and from them we look back here to Lino Cabrera, and Cabrera continues to make a bit of progress here, trying to chase after Matt Strand, and Strand right now just holding in the middle of the road, not really worrying too much at this time, as we do see a bit of an exchange there, and that was Hayden Bramley in the rear of the pitch having an off track, and as a result a bit of damage to his front bumper. I suspect that may have been aided by some contact with another driver, but it's definitely a very wounded number 12 Porsche right now in the white and black livery machine, and well, Rudolf Bloodstromen is trying to find a way through. However, it's easier said than done, even for a wounded Porsche, in the fact there is plenty of track width, but he doesn't want to go up the inside then to pull on corner unless he can help it. She'll lose all your race speed, and that enable Clinton Shumbi to just gradually disappear. Still plenty of laps to go, and we have had some instants early on. We are going to get some replays of the early instants in short order, and well, particularly what happened to none other than Licklammer, as he had an absolute nightmare start. And in fact, I think we can cut to the replays. Here we go. And well, here we are then, ladies and gents. But this was the race start, and what went wrong for Tommy Liglama into the opening corner. Free wide there at the apex, tries to get the power down, and then getting tapped there by one of the other drivers further on back. I believe that may have been, or it may have been Gareth Higgins, although don't quote me on that, to be fair, I may be incorrect. We also did have an instant on lap number 1 for Luca Domko, and this is what happened to poor Luca as he came down towards Ravage corner. I think this was further down the field where we did see a number of drivers decide to go play sandcastles, and Domko then tapping the rear of the 23, and the whole Constantino effect there, seeing the 22 come straight into the back, and unfortunately for Neil Butler, he took to the escape road there, which was the gravel eventually, but that's how they settled it. On lap number 2, this was Gerald Hildorn. He was going into turn number 1, and I believe he was the car in that contact that we saw with Liglama at the start of the race. So there we have our man who was involved in that contact and just lose it through La Source corner. Very easy to do. Oh, goodness me. And, well, the whole field coming over. Freddie tried to get it stopped and out the way, but unfortunately not enough time. The whole field in the end pulled into the scene of the incident. A bit of a knock there, but thankfully able to clear most of that, albeit I think having to park the car with damage afterwards, and his race came to an abrupt end. And then we come to lap number 3, and this was Oliver Clark heading down the Kemmel Straight, and well, under a bit of pressure at the time. Into the braking zone he went, and the car snapping straight on. And that was his race over with. So Oliver Clark just having an abrupt halt there. Well, let's come back to your live racing. And as we do, ladies and gentlemen, still more to go here. And indeed, plenty more laps to be accrued by our drivers. And as we can see, looking back to the front of the field, we're only on lap number 5 of 11, and it is Tristan Iglesias right now still leading. But this top 6, very close together, only 2 seconds, if that, separating the top 6 there. All right now, I think playing the game of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and the idea is they all want to run this pace in order to break away from the rest of the field. But later on, you will see the pace continues to increase as tyre degradation also starts to play a big factor, and that will see drivers fall away. And it looks like we might be losing 5th and 6th here. Bernardo Faria and Pedro Ribera, they are trying to stay with the top 4, but that gap has opened up a little bit. It may be the sign that they're perhaps backing off and deciding to save some tyre life, or conversely, it could mean that in fact the top 4 now are already starting to open up the pace. And you can imagine it if you've ever watched Tour de France or any of the major cycling events on an annual basis. I can't quite remember the name of the Spanish one, albeit I'm sure somebody will tell me there if they're aware of their cycling terminology. But right now, it really is they're playing a race here where they're racing as a pack, mutually knowing that if they work together, they break away from everybody else and they remove certain drivers from the equation. However, of course, working this manner means you've got to maintain that pace, and there becomes the question towards the end of the race, who's got the pace left in order to be able to suddenly take positions or break away from this group entirely. And well, if you're Tristan Iglesias, you would imagine the number 2 driver right now is going to be thinking to himself, you know, I might be able to do this. However, Aaron Vasquez has already shown the credence to want to make one pass on Mimasi 3 laps ago. And understandably, he may be feeling as though he can make another move in the near future in order to take the lead this race. And it's not a bad thing to be up front, as you can see there. Iglesias sending a message, which is, no, Vasquez, I don't want you coming up the inside of me into Rouge. And, well, I think that might have been a bit of a peak from Aaron Vasquez. I think he's trying to say to Iglesias, look, you're leading, but don't expect to be leading at the end of the race. And, well, here we go then, because he's much closer this time coming out to Radion. And as they charge their way down, the field starts to fan out here. The top 4 all get elbows out, as that's going to be to the grass there. Vasquez taking a very liberal loose on one side, Mamasi on the other side. 2 wide they come down into Les Combes, and that is going to be Aaron Vasquez moving into the lead of the race. And you know, Mamasi, meanwhile, still fighting there. He was the man you saw on the grass in the yellow and black Bumblebee machine. And as they come out to turn number 7 and down towards 8 they go, well, Aaron Vasquez takes the lead this race. Mamasi's up into 2nd, and Tristan Iglesias is going to think, what on earth just happened there? Well, it sure gets as good as mine. That was 4 wide at the best of times. And as they come down in towards 8's corner, well, Iglesias now having to go on the defensive here, but very quickly, we said about the running as a pack, and suddenly this top 6 decides the gloves are off. We're at the halfway point of the race, and now we're absolutely going to go hammer and tongs. And well, as they do, the 5% behind William Rasmussen there, he leads this group at the moment, but Philip Hammer, Gareth Higgins, Aaron Baba, and Vicente Aparicio all staying with him at the moment as they come down through Puron-Ben. And I think looking off into the distances here, the top 6 are now starting to get a little bit dicey, and perhaps asking themselves the question, can we potentially catch up to that? And Vince Peters, meanwhile, he's watching this at a distance and thinking, can I play as well and try and get a top 10 place? Well, if he carries on this pace, in fact, his pace isn't that far off of Rasmussen and Hammer's pace. They are struggling a little bit at the front of that 2nd pack, and Peters, I think, will catch up to it by the end of this lap. And if so, good going on him, because that's going to put him right in the hunt for a top 10 finish. Further on back, we do have Rudolf Bludström, who is still trying to make a bit more of a charge after Clinton Schumby, as we saw Bramley there going very sideways in the foreground of the camera shot in that wounded Porsche that definitely is pointing sideways, not quite in a straight line. However, he's doing everything he can, Bramley, in order to keep it together. But these drivers right now definitely pushing onwards here and trying to salvage a good result out of what's happened. And well, sometimes that's the way it goes. But in these top splits as well, it really is all about just taking every place you can. And speaking of taking places here, Aaron Baba looking to try and pass to Gareth Higgins. But the number 9 of Higgins right now definitely asserting its dominance in that position until Baba says, okay, I've got the inside line to the source. Now this is going to get very intriguing, because who's going to be the better of the late breakers? Well, of course you can break much later on the outside line there, but it does lead you to going around a wider circumference, and in Higgins expects that, and he cuts his way back in as we ride on board with the 3rd man in this menage a trois, and this is going to be Vicente Aparicio, who's just waiting right now. But the upside of this is he's going to get the double toe here coming up the hill. He will have to fight against the dirty air, does exactly what he needs to do there. You can see the overspeed as he makes his way along, and as he does, we'll hear with a double toe, what kind of speed is he achieving, I hear you ask? He's hitting 167 miles an hour as he comes on down, and well, he heads into the braking zone there. He's going to look around the outside of Higgins. Baba's cleared Higgins under braking, however, and Aparicio has to wait his turn, no way through it, and as quickly as he's heading towards 170 miles an hour, he's now down to 80 as he heads through turn 7. That's a lot of understeer there as he comes through the right hand. That's going to send him wide, and where it drops him out of the fight, but it doesn't drop him off the pack, and you can see Peters just watching behind us. We say hello to Ryan Walker in the YouTube chat. Good evening to you, Ryan. I hope you're doing well. But lap number 7 and 11, and these laps continue to fly on by here. And, well, we are heading towards the end of this race, no doubt about it. But how will it all end? That is the big question that we'll all be asking. Well, thinking of things almost coming to an end, we take a look back at the previous lap and look at this, ladies and gentlemen. 4 wide heading down the Kemmel Straight. The blimp getting right in the prime position there to catch it all. And, well, it was 3 wide, in fact. The camera made it look 4 wide. And in the end, Mamasi having to take to the grass in order to go round the side. But they all negotiated it in the end. And Iglesias being robbed on both sides. The reverse Moses maneuver coming into full effect. He tried to come back through Lecon, but it didn't quite work out. And Aaron Vasquez taken the position, as did Mamasi. And, well, in the end, we did see the two swap a little bit later on. But coming back to our live racing, we've still got more to come, of course. And as we do, well, we look from the bottom end of the top 10 to the top end of the top 10. And it is Hayden Mamasi who right now leads this race and is continuing to just try and run away with this as long as he can. He did find his way past Vasquez on the Kemmel Straight last time around. We didn't catch that on camera, but that's why you will see that Mamasi and Vasquez have swapped the lead around. And, well, could we potentially see another swap in a due moment or two? Well, we will find out, no doubt about it, but we've got a bit of a way to go before we do find out as the drivers continue to push onwards. As they head on then to lap number 8. 3 more to go after this one. And right now, Iglesias looking up from behind there. He's sniffing the toe of Vasquez, but the problem is he's not going to be able to find a way in. It looks like Mamasi might be starting to open up a little bit of an advantage here as they head onwards towards the Kemmel Straight, albeit Rouge and Radion will be the deciding factor of who's close to whom at this point. It does seem as though our race leader now might be saying to everyone, right, now it's the game of catch me if you can, because I'm leading and I'm going to try and break away. He breaks the toe there, but keep in mind that doing that big wiggle down the straight doesn't always help, and in fact that actually increases the length of the straight effectively, because you're suddenly going not in a straight line, but you're going in a diagonal line at certain points and actually cover more distance, and that actually enables Vasquez to look at a potential move, only then to have to go defensive and make sure that Iglesias does not find a way in. And right now Vasquez having to play a game of offensive defense here, which he's got to put pressure on the race leader to make sure that Iglesias cannot look for a move in turn. But if he gets it wrong in the braking, the CONSPIT effect very quickly applies, and then suddenly Iglesias is there looking for a move. But you can see this top 6 has compressed itself together. They're almost all within a second of each other, albeit they can't quite fit into that space, as otherwise you'd run out of room. But the point being 1.2 seconds separates the top 6, and right now they're absolutely gunning for glory here, and, well, rolling the way down through Poor Bend. There's nothing between them at the moment. Further on back, Philip Hammer started to get a little bit closer to the back of William Rasmussen. He's thinking about an opportunity here. It's the German driver. However, he's got Aaron Babas still keeping him honest, and that's the problem as well. When you are running these packs, one move, one wrong move in terms of attacking the driver in front can suddenly see you lose out everything to the driver behind. So you really do have to place your move, and that's what makes this very intriguing. You could say it's a bit of high-speed chess, albeit not literally, but figuratively, in the fact that all having to think about their moves at least 3-4 quarters in advance. But right now, not thinking about moves. Oh, my goodness, that is not Matthew Hops. That's Hayden Bramley, who's had a spin. And, well, I think that was a triple pirouette there as he brings it back together. But past him is going to be Matthew Hops and Luca Domko. And, well, that's also going to be Neil Butler, who crusades his way around the outside. But what exactly happened to Hayden Bramley, I hear you ask? And, well, we see him disappear, and we're going to have him reappear here on a replay. Now, this was going down through Poor Bend. I think this might have been of his own volition. Rear of the car starts to let go. You can see the brief slide goes out completely, and next in Poor, the rear lets go, hits the barrier, and, well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And that was all for Hayden Bramley in a wounded car, and in the end the wounds proving too much to withstand. That's very unfortunate for Bramley, but still, as he falls, more drives still to push on here, and we come back to our leaders then, with time now continuing to trickle on, and, well, it does seem as though still the top 6 all think about it, but Marcy holding that position and just about feeling comfortable as they chart away onwards towards Rouge and Radion. Iglesias there, still close again, and this time running very wide out of Rouge and into Radion, and that's going to carry him a bit more speed, but he's got to be careful about picking up a potential slowdown. Did he get one? And the answer is no, he doesn't look to have, as meanwhile, Hayden Mamasi is looking left, he's looking right, he's decided to put the car every which way down the Kemmel Straight, and we'll get away with that once or twice. However, when a driver gets close enough to him, he won't be able to get away with that, because that will otherwise lead to a collision. And Mamasi right now, knowing how to play the game of trying to break the toe, and, well, as his rear wing says, they're fiercely forward. Well, right now he's fiercely looking forward to potential victory. However, he's got to keep Vasquez behind, and doing this, we can see everybody still queuing together here. There is nothing between the top 6. It really is right now. Well, they do normally say that 2's plenty, meanwhile 3's a crowd, but right now what's 6? Well, I think it's overcrowded here, but we're not complaining, because the more the better as they come down in towards Pool this time. But right now nobody wants to make a move, but Tristan Iglesias, third in this pack, he has been been the closest to his rival in front of Vasquez compared to all the other drivers. He's been within 2 tenths persistently over the entirety of the last 2 laps. And Iglesias right now definitely, I think, so close to the back of Vasquez's car. Well, the two must be in sync, because if he wasn't, he would have tapped on the rear right now and potentially send the pair of them round. But that is how hard he is pushing. As you can see there, a brief off for Johansson and also for Ribeiro behind. So those two, I think, still trying to up the pace as they follow on through. But it's definitely proved to be more and more challenging in each and every time. And again, the tyre wear on these cars now started to take a bigger and bigger effect. It's not that the tyres can't make the distance, but of course, in these sprint races, the idea is the setup is made to strip the life out the tyre. You don't really care about the tyres over the course of a 25-minute race. All you care about is outright pace lap to lap. The car's still got to be drivable. But then again, drivable is a very subjective term, and a lot of these cars will be set up for the maximum possible rotation off the rear wheels for the minimum possible stability. And the idea is you use the throttle in the Porsche Cup car in order to give yourself the stability. Remember, rear engine, rear wheel drive, the idea is that when you put the throttle down, the engine buries itself further down onto the rear axle, and therefore that gives you the planted nature of the car and the confidence to push forward. But speaking of push forward here, this is going to be a potential move, and Peters up the inside of Rasmussen in towards La Source, penultimate lap, and as they come into the braking zone, we said Peters was one to watch out for, and where he demonstrates that as he goes up the inside, and Aparicio says, do you mind if I come on through too? And Rasmussen right now thinks we're muttering under his helmet, no, go away, because right now he shuts the door firmly into Aparicio's face, and as they head up towards the Rouge Radion, these three now absolutely glued together. But what can Aparicio do at this point as we ride on board? And well, there is a front bumper, he takes the camera off the car, and well, that is not good news for the camera. I think they're going to have to repair and repay for that one, but as they head onto the Kemmel straight, it's going to be too wide for a brief mode. Peters being pushed along there by Rasmussen, and Aparicio trying to go all the way around the outside. He's trying to out-drag both of the Porsches with a bit of bump drafting in effect. He'll be too wide there with Rasmussen, and he'll get it done. A lovely classic move, and that moves Aparicio now up into 9th place, I should say. Peters holding on to 8th, and Rasmussen relegated back to 10th, but he's not out of this yet, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him come on back. Now, with all of this happening, there's further change of foot at the front of the field, because suddenly Hayden Mimasi has dropped all the way down to 3rd. It's Aaron Vasquez who re-leads this race, and Tristan Iglesias. And you might be wondering, how exactly did that happen? Well, here's a quick replay to explain. And this was, I believe, also going down the Kemmel Straight. And here it was. They made the way on down. And this time, well, Mimasi not quite able to do the weave anymore, given the fact his rolls were so close. So in the end, Vasquez came on around the outside. And William Iglesias also tried to do the same. Under braking, they went too wide through the corner. And Mimasi just taking a bit too much apex curve there at turn at number 5. And that's how the place is swapped. But still, great racing between them. Great respect being shown. And definitely a very high caliber of competitiveness between them. And well, they've still got one more lap after this, and I can imagine when they come onto that final lap, it is absolutely going to be a masterclass battle all the way to the end. Although you can see here, 4th place, Bernardo Feria has now started to fall back a little bit. 7 tenths is the gap to Mimasi. Is that a sign that perhaps he's hit his limit right towards the close of this run? We will see, albeit I can imagine that if he has hit his limit, it is going to feel as though it's a limit well hit, for the simple reason that the confidence levels will be high, and he'll be looking to try and take home at that 4th place and keep Johansson and Ribeiro behind. We'll see, however, because we have got the final lap to go. The white flag waves there. Barney flag waves it, albeit I think his wrist is a bit knackered. And as they roar their way on towards turn number 1, well, here they go. And it is going to be one last tour of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit on this fine Wednesday evening. But who is going to be coming home with the top step at the end of it? Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Will it be Vasquez? Will it be Tristan Iglesias? Or will it be Mimasi? Or could it be one of the other 3 behind? Well, here we are about to find out as they roar their way to Rouge Radion. Differences in lines there. And Iglesias pulling out of the toe to give himself the better run up the hill. He doesn't want to get an overspeed too early. He's very tactical about this. Vasquez sees it happening and hooks the inside immediately as they head onto the Kemmel Straight. Behind, Mimasi now picks up the double draft here. Oh, it's going to be too wide as he looks to the grass, and again, well, he's gone to the inside, but he feels as though he's been forced off there. Well, I think that's very liberal use of track limits, but he's still going to roll with it, and as they head down to the braking zone, they both go deep, and around the outside goes Vasquez. He retakes the lead there. Seeing that Iglesias and Mimasi were going to mess their braking zones, and in turn, by those two being so focused on fighting, they swap it around. Vasquez is back into the lead. Iglesias in 2nd, Mimasi in 3rd, but behind Faria and Johansson now fighting even harder. They come on down through the hill. Johansson gives Faria a little bit of tap on the rear and says, don't mind me, I'm still chasing you. And as they come through Expand, there's going to be no change this time, but definitely right now, all 6 drivers there now, all bearing their fangs, and they've been unleashed onto each other like a pack of wolves at this point. But going down into Poor Bend, well, one of them's going to have to be the leader of the pack by the end of it. Vasquez thinks he's the one to do it. However, they've still got half a lap to go, and half a lap is a long time here at Spa-Francorchamps, and there's still plenty of opportunities. However, we will see as further on down the order, we have had an off-track for Alex O'Grady that's moved him down to 12th place from a top 10. However, don't expect it to be all over for him. Vicente Aparicio looking onto the back of Vince Peters in the battle for 8th place as well. And he's still 2 to go, and Peters has been one of the biggest gainers in terms of making his way up through the field, little by little over the race distance, so credit where it's due to him. But with the fighting going on here, coming to a bit of a breather, well, we must look back to the front of the field, and this is where we'll stay transfixed all the way to the end, because Vasquez is pulling away. Half a second is the gap to Tristan Iglesias, and half a second doesn't sound like much, but to these guys, it's a lifetime as they head towards Blanchimont Bend. Meanwhile, Hardino Mamasi, he's closer to Iglesias, only 2 tenths there, and closing very quickly here as they come out of the fast left-hander. Will he be able to look for the move? We're about to see as he looks to the outside there. Iglesias goes defensive. Mamasi's going to try and hook it outside to inside. He's going to have to get the nose in there, and Iglesias gives him the space, but as the checker flag waves, race number 1 of the season will go to Aaron Vasquez, who takes victory over Hardino Mamasi, who just pips Iglesias to the line. It'll then be Bernardo Farri in 4th place ahead of Malte Johansson, and 6th will go to Pedro Ribeiro. 7th will go the way of Philip Hammer ahead of Vicente Aparicio, found his way past Vince Peters at the bus stop chicane. Erin Babel will take 10th place, and it'll be Alex O'Grady, William Rasmussen, Gareth Higgins, and then a sizable 10-second gap to Lino Cabrera, who finishes in 14th place, but well done to him. 3 places gained since the start, that's not too bad. And Matt Strand with 4 places gains round us your top 15. We also do have a bit further back there, and Nevi Thompson ahead of Rudolf Bludström, and I believe your top 20 is going to be rounded out by Clinton Shumbi, followed by Matthew Hops, and then we'll have Luca Domko rounding off that top 20 there, with then a further 13 seconds to Neil Butler. But what a race, ladies and gents, indeed. What a way to open up the return of the Strength for Field race for the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. And, well, 21st goes the way of Neil Butler, and he'll be your last finisher, with all the other drivers being retirees from the race. It was a great ending to the race, no doubt about it. Some fantastic fighting out there. But we do need to take a look back quickly at the move made by Vicente Aparicio on Vince Peters right at the end as well, because that was one of the other talking points, who would finish in 8th place at the end. Well, Philip Hammer was running away in 7th, and these two are absolutely close together. But in the end, well, using a little bit of the runoff area there, and a switchback from Peters. He tried to go for it, but Aparicio put himself right on the off-centre inside line. And, well, Peters wanted to go for it, but I think he recognised if he did, he'd be taking the 2 of them off into the grass, and therefore decided, you know what, we're going to have a drag race to the line. It's not going to be enough, but still great racing and great respect being shown between them. You can see there Peters pulling over and saying to Aparicio, I'll get you next time. And, well, that is a bit of a rivalry that's brewing, and I'm sure we'll see that in the coming weeks. But as the circuit falls silent, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are, ladies and gentlemen, for our week 1 top split broadcasted race in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT for 2025 Season 3. And as we can see there, Aaron Vasquez, your winner in the grid and go machine by a second over Hardino Mamasi. Don't worry about the missing flags, by the way. We are aware of the fact that these are appearing on the broadcast at the moment. They should be fixed in the coming weeks with the introduction of the new club functionality on iRacing. So therefore, you will see some flag gaps there, but we will get those fixed when we can. But that top 3 of Aaron Vasquez and Hardino Mamasi then being completed by Bernardo Faria, and what a battle between all the drivers there. But it does look as though Tristan Iglesias has had a demotion because he finished 3rd on the road, but that appears to be some sort of post-race penalty that's been applied. I wouldn't be surprised if that would be the amount of a drive-through penalty that time, and that could be for track limits on the final lap, or at least for instant points on the final lap. And if so, that's going to be gut-wrenching for the number 2 driver, for the simple reason that we worked hard to finish 3rd, and in the end, we classified 20th. But that means Bernardo Faria is promoted to 3rd place. And a surprise twist there, and he's going to be shocked at that one as much as we are here in the Conte booth, with Malte Johansson in 4th, ahead of Pedro Ribeiro, who rounds off your top 5. In 6th, Philip Hammer there, who did enough to pull away from the second pack, albeit he did have a 1-second gap between himself and Vicente Aparicio in the closing stages, where Aparicio just outpacing Vince Peters right towards the end. Erin Bava and Alex O'Grady complete your top 10, and O'Grady returning to the top 10 after a dismal start to the race. However, he'll be very happy with that return to the top 10. William Rasmussen finishing in 11th there, best of the rest of Rebellion Esports. And then we did have Gareth Higgins in 12th, fighting hard there to chase down Rasmussen, but didn't quite have enough in the tank to get the move done. But he did have the best part of 10 seconds worth of pace over the race distance to make sure Lino Cabrera could not keep up with him. Matt Strand was in 14th, and then Nevi Thompson round off your top 15, holding off the charge of Rudolf Bludström. And then we did have Clinton Shumbi, Matthew Hops, Luca Domko, and Tristan Iglesias there with the post-race time demotion, rounding off your top 20. Outside the top 20, there's still more drives to talk about, of course, and let's come through to the rest of them. And we did see the last of your finishers there in 21st place, Neil Butler, with a bit of a difficult race for the full send racing driver, but I'm sure he'll be back to full sending it next week. We did have retirements, and therefore commiserations for Hayden Bramley with that dramatic end to his race at Puron Corner. Also to Tommy Liglama, who in the end had to come into the pits due to damage at the start of the race, but he did get back out there, albeit 7 laps down. Oliver Clark 8 laps to go, and that's when he retired, and Hildorn, the first of our retirees, classified as a non-finisher there 10 laps down. It's 25 starters, 21 finishers, and what a race, ladies and gentlemen, and we've still got plenty more to come over this season, because that's just a taste of what is to come here in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. But with that taster, it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's broadcast, be sure to let us know, and we do say hello there to Maxim Racing and Vilu in at the YouTube chat, and glad to see you both joined it. But if you have enjoyed it, be sure to let us know, and remember, this is going to be on a weekly basis for the entirety of Season 3 for 2025, and a big thank you to not only our drivers on the grid today, but also to iRacing for putting on this official series, and also to CONSPIT, the absolutely professional sim racing hardware provider, sponsoring the iRacing official Porsche Cup Open Series. But where are we for week number 2? Well, we continue to remain in Belgium, but we make our way to everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit. Yes, the one that is overshadowed by Spa-Francorchamps. We head to Circuit Zolder, with its very tight chicanes and short straights and sweeping bends dominating the theme. And where Spa-Francorchamps was packed full of variety, Circuit Zolder is going to be a game of who's the bravest on the brakes. So tune in next week on Wednesday the 25th of June 2025 in our 1945 GMT or UTC slot as we continue the story of Season 3 of the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. But until then, I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX11 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.